Why hello wrestling fans, and welcome to the Tom Colohue channels, which I'm going to try something different with and say, Channel Hugh. Doesn't quite work, does it? WrestleMania has been all over the place, up in the air and completely falling apart at different times. We are less than 2 months away, less than a month and a half away. We're about 5 weeks away now from WrestleMania, so they really need to step on the gas and do it quickly. We are going to talk today more news about the fact that WrestleMania is still not set in stone. It looks like they may be having to rethink the whole thing at times, but there is at current 4 matches locked, several matches planned, some matches considered, and some wrestlers who they want on the card but are simply not sure what to do with. I'm going to break down all of those. And then, as usual, of course, I'll be going through your questions, your thoughts, your ideas, and talking about your questions. For those who don't know, I am Tom Colohue. I'm a freelance wrestling journalist who also works on behalf of PW Torch. I'm currently a grand total of 21 subscribers away from monetization. Note that I didn't say subscribers and watch time. All I said was 21 subscribers away from monetization. So, if you have not done so yet, please do consider hitting subscribe, and it will be a big help to find new subscribers if you would hit like as well on the YouTube channel and follow on Twitch. I'm going to start by going into the WrestleMania news, then I'm going to come straight to your questions and answer them as best I can. Naturally, if I answer your questions in the WrestleMania news, I will not be repeating, but I may reiterate nice and quick. Just before we do that though, I see a couple of people. In fact, Bailey says, hello Tom, sorry I missed yesterday's unscheduled show. It was unscheduled, mate, so you are completely forgiven. It was a bit random with just some big news. You have nothing to apologise for. So let's talk about WrestleMania as it stands at the moment. There are a number of matches that are up in the air, but there are a few locked in, a couple that are planned but are not yet started, some that are currently being considered and are favourites for certain wrestlers, and some which feature wrestlers who are unsure who they're going to be taking on. We're going to talk about this all in quite some depth. Starting with the matches that are locked in, we start with the obvious ones, the ones that have already been announced. The main event of this year's WrestleMania will be winner take all Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. The plan as early as October time was to have Roman main eventing night 2 of WrestleMania and Brock Lesnar to be his opponent. At that time, Becky Lynch was going to be the main event of night 1. It is still possible, but at the moment it is not likely. As of roughly 2 weeks ago, they decided firmly that we were going to get Brock versus Roman, champion versus champion, title versus title, winner take all, largely because there just isn't anyone else to challenge Roman, so getting him on Raw for a little bit will do good things on that behalf. It also allows them, for example, to use Seth Rollins on Smackdown a little more, which was very, very beneficial for them. Next up, already booked, already announced and locked in, is Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey. This is a match that does not surprise anyone. They've been building to this since the Royal Rumble, and it seemed pretty obvious it's where they were heading. This time next year, we are likely to see the build for Rousey versus Lynch, but for now, Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey is going to take place on night 1, may well main event. There is another match though that may well main event night 1, and that is Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belaire. As recently as January, a week before the Royal Rumble, this was going to be the night 1 main event. Reports about a 4 horsewoman fatal 4-way, I have not heard anything about that, and in fact I've heard people say that it was always going to be Lynch versus Belaire, and the plan and the storyline was already putting that one on, so I can't speak to the validity of that. That will be night 1, it sounds like. However, they may spread the love for the women's championships depending on what other women's matches they have. I suspect Lynch versus Belaire, if Rousey versus Flair finishes night 1, I suspect Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belaire will open night 1, in fact open WrestleMania. Finally, currently planned for night 2, the Mysterios, Dominic and Rey versus The Miz and Logan Paul. This, by the way, is part of a planned push to reach gamers. The main reason that the Mysterios will be going up against The Miz and Logan Paul is because the WWE believes that Logan Paul is a crossover star and they want to get as many people tuning in as possible who may be interested in gaming, seeing Rey Mysterio, who is of course the cover star of WWE 2K22. Now I'm going to move on to the matches that are currently planned, but they have not yet pulled the trigger on. These matches are in production, are being prepared, are being scripted, but have not been signed off on as of yet to definitely happen at WrestleMania. First and foremost, Edge versus AJ Styles. There have been suggestions in wrestling media over the past few days that Edge and AJ Styles has not only been considered, but been pushed heavily backstage. Primarily these suggestions have come from myself, but they've been reported afterwards by a number of other sites and a number of other people. Edge and AJ, to be clear, both want this match. Edge and AJ both want this match, and I suspect they are very likely to get their way. Next up would be Drew McIntyre versus Baron Corbin. This is all but locked. This is basically locked, but I haven't had official confirmation, so I'm calling it planned. Drew McIntyre versus Baron Corbin has been the plan since about December, and this is why Drew McIntyre started working with Madcap Moss and Baron Corbin going forwards. The plan seems to be to give McIntyre the win and basically just have him move on to Roman Reigns shortly after. That said, I do think Corbin could benefit from a good match, a good program, hopefully, for him at least, a win as well. Also planned is Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville. Yep, an Intercontinental Championship match between Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville. Sami Zayn is going to sell for Knoxville, but ultimately put him down quite comfortably. This is part 2 of the intention of getting celebrities onto WWE programming. We may still see a couple more added to the Battle Royals, and this is why the next 2 matches planned are the Men's and Women's Battle Royal, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and the Women's Battle Royal for the Uterus Trophy. Those matches are planned. They are currently planning to put as many people as do not make the card into those matches, which means that we may see some actually quite big names in there. Certainly I'm looking at least one member of the New Day, for example, featuring in there. If Big E goes down to the Men's Battle Royal, there will be hell to pay, but it's not impossible. Next up is a number of matches that are currently being considered, but I could not call them planned at this time. There's a number of other options for these people, so they are not hard and fast, or they're not locked in, or they are waiting for someone to sign. First and foremost for that is Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes. This is currently being considered. It is being pushed by a member of Creative. However, to my knowledge, Cody Rhodes has not yet signed with the WWE, though there is a powerful offer on the table should Cody decide to take it. A lot of people in the WWE expect him to take it, but there are no guarantees of that. In addition, RK Bro versus Alpha Academy is currently being considered. The Alpha Academy right now are the tag team champions on Raw. RK Bro could possibly have a breakup and have a match instead, Randy Orton versus Matt Riddle. And of course, if Cody Rhodes does not sign, Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens may go further into this tag championship feud. There is a lot up in the air on this one, which is why it is in the considered bracket rather than planned or locked. Third up, I've just mentioned him. This is as regards Kevin Owens going up against Stone Cold Steve Austin. The WWE are confident they're going to get their man, and that man is Stone Cold Steve Austin. Kevin Owens, I'm not too sure, to be entirely blunt, as to the fact that this will be his trajectory. Once again, if Cody Rhodes is not available, that may have a knock-on impact on Kevin Owens. And of course, if Stone Cold isn't available, Kevin Owens will have to wrestle someone else. Finally, in the considered bracket, Alexa Bliss versus Ria Ripley. Also in brackets here, or Liv Morgan. The WWE like the reception and the reaction that Alexa Bliss had. She was expected to be back in and around WrestleMania. Because of that, they are strongly considering Alexa Bliss versus Rhea Ripley or Liv Morgan. There are hopes of a Bliss versus Morgan feud because they feel there is a good chemistry there. However, they are also really liking the crowd reaction to Bliss versus Ripley. I have 3 more matches to mention, and these I am putting definitively in the unsure category. These are particularly wrestlers that they want to get on the card for specific reasons, even though they may not have anything specific planned at this point. First up, we have the Usos, the current SmackDown Tag Team Champions. They will be on the card. The WWE want to make sure that the New Day are also on the card, so it is highly likely we'll see some combination of the Usos versus the New Day. However, at the moment, the Usos are feuding with the Viking Raiders, so even though this may come to a head in the coming weeks, I do expect that we are going to see something between the Usos and the Viking Raiders, possibly also the New Day. We also have mentioned Damien Priest. Now, Damien Priest is the United States Champion. I don't see it being too long before Cody Rhodes takes that mantle, but for now it is still very much Damien Priest. Possible contenders include Finn Balor and Austin Theory. Austin Theory was scheduled to go up against Shane McMahon before Shane McMahon was basically told, get out. So Austin Theory is now available. Finn Balor may also end up going up against Tommaso Ciampa, or in fact involved in some sort of match with RK Bro, Alpha Academy, Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens. Anything could really happen there. Finally, Sasha Banks. The intention is to get her on the Mania card. They don't know who against yet. They are also struggling with an element of availability. The favourite concept at the moment is for Sasha Banks to compete for the Tag Team Championships and likely win them alongside Bayley. Possible contenders would be Trish Stratus and Lita if available, the Bella Twins if available, and the champions at the moment, Zelina Vega and Carmella. If those options are not on the table, Sasha Banks could face off against Trish Stratus individually, or of course Lita, who the WWE have been very impressed with and are likely going to be using a lot more going forwards. That is a quick look at the WrestleMania card as it stands. I hope I answered a lot of the questions. Tommy here reminding me there is a rumour at the moment coming out from Brad Shepard, who we've discussed previously here, and Ringside News. Not the most trusted sources, though of course Ringside News did get a lot of attention for saying that Shane McMahon has been fired, even though Shane McMahon hasn't entirely been fired. The idea that Pat McAfee could be in a match is an exciting one. I'd very much enjoy seeing him against Corey Graves. At this point, I'm going to start answering your questions, so if you have any questions, please do jump in and ask away. These shows live and die on the questions that we get, so I do apologise for the monologue that started us off there, but by all means, jump in now with any questions you have. To start saying hi, hello Sean Cena, who says, hello, it is awesome to see my favourite wrestling journalist and reporter, Tom freaking Colohue. Thank you, Sean, I appreciate that. Ed says, Tommy C is in the house. And Tommy B says, heard Pat McAfee might have a match at Mania. Is that true? I haven't heard anything about it. I'm just answering the rumour as it has gone out there. Before we continue, please do remember, if you are watching on YouTube, hit that like button. It makes a massive difference to the show. Right now, 24 people are watching, and when it comes to likes, we are only on 13. I think we can do a little bit better than that if possible, and if you're able to, please jump in and hit that like button. It really does help me grow. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. If you have any other accounts maybe that aren't currently following as well, click subscribe on those. We are 21 subscribers away from full-on monetization. So please consider subscribing if you have not done so already. It makes a huge difference to what we will be able to achieve here. To be clear, monetization will not come out of your pocket. Simply by being here, you will be providing me with an income. Simon is hoping for Sasha versus Trish. Sonic says, hello Tom, how are you doing today? I'm doing very, very well, thank you. I bought my partner a unicorn onesie and she effing loved it. Jane says, any Sasha Banks news? I just provided the latest update that I have on Sasha Banks. So that was in the WrestleMania update there. Rob, welcome, says, yeah, they seem to be tweaking storylines and putting together storylines as the weeks go by. Very much so. As Rob did in fact say a little bit earlier, I was just going to get to that on YouTube. Says, hey Tom, boy, this road to WrestleMania seems confusing. Seems WWE is just as confused and just moving day by day with their plans. And indeed, that's how it feels, isn't it? Before we started the show, Steve of the SCW Wrestling channel jumped in and said, "Hope you're well, Tom. Getting in my question early is watching on delay. What are some of your favourite Kurt Angle matches of all time?" Now, it's a little bit hard to talk on this one because most of my favourite Kurt Angle matches featured either Chris Jericho, name redacted, or Chris Jericho and name redacted. There are certainly some great matches that Kurt Angle had. There was a great one against The Undertaker that I loved. I really enjoyed his work with The Rock and Triple H. But name redacted, those were amazing. David Leary says, "Sorry I'm late." No need, David, no need. There is absolutely no need to be sorry if you come in a little late. I mean, you will unfortunately be missing a few things. From the early part of the show, which is about the news, but you can always at the end just go back and watch that. I'm never upset if someone isn't here for the whole show. Never upset. I'm just grateful people are happy to jump in and take a chance on little old me. As in fact, Wiggly says as well, "Apologies, I also missed the show yesterday." Not a worry. After all, on Monday we did hit some new records. The fact is, yesterday we had a peak of 33 viewers. That's still damn good. That is still damn good. So I'm very, very happy with what we're doing right now. And if we can get those extra 21 subscribers, if we can get them, then we will be flying. Wolf Gamer Welcome says, "Tom Colohue." Welcome, mate. How you doing? A lot of people are putting things in the chat about what's going on with Ukraine at the moment. I'm going to try not to touch on that too much because I want to offer at least a little bit of relief from the doom scrolling a lot of people are doing. It is horrific what is happening. I do not agree with the Russian actions at all, but I do think it comes down to one person. I'm not blaming Russia en masse here. I'm blaming one person who should be blamed. I will not be mentioning further. Jermaine says, "Hi Tom." Hello Jermaine, how are you? La Hockman, welcome back, says, "After Liv being on main event facing Zelina Vega, do you think this could mean Liv goes in the tag team division and faces the women's tag team champions at WrestleMania? I don't know who her tag team partner would be, although Liv and Bliss would certainly be an alright looking team." Sean says, "Sports Gamers Online said they talked to multiple sources close to the game's development, said Ronda is planned to be a part of one of the last post-launch DLC roster packs for 2K22. This makes perfect sense on the basis that, to be quite blunt, she was not planned to be featured until the last week before the Royal Rumble, so she was not created for the WWE games." Michael says, "Hi Tom." Welcome Michael, how you doing mate? Simon says, "Ronda is too fragile for pro wrestling. She can't handle heel heat." That is bullshit. That is utter bullshit. Ronda Rousey is not too fragile because she handles heel heat. She was there doing it the entire time. You know? She's there getting abundances of hate on social media, non-stop, people tagging her, blaming her for being in a match that she didn't book. Clearly she can handle it. Andrew Quinn says, "Evening Tom. How's your day been?" It's been great, thank you Andrew. "I can't believe March is next month, which is my birthday." Oh, well, I look forward to giving you happy birthday and nuptials on that one. Also can't wait for 38. Feel like it will break records and beat last year's Mania 37. I think it definitely will, on the basis we'll at least have a full crowd, so that's a damn good start. Austin Palmer, welcome mate. Says, "Yeah, I missed it yesterday too because yesterday was my dad's birthday. First one without him. They re-sign AJ and lose Cesaro." Firstly, Austin, I'm very sorry to hear that. Very sorry to hear that. I understand that that is undoubtedly going to be rough and I hope you're okay. When it comes to AJ and Cesaro, yep, they lost Cesaro. Cesaro chose to walk away. All power to him with that decision. And also all power to WWE signing AJ to a new deal. He's an incredibly talented man who will carry them forward into the next generation. Jonesy, welcome mate. How you doing? Says, "What do you make of Pat versus Corey as a feud for WrestleMania? I would love to see it. Genuinely, they're both very good wrestlers, and I think storyline-wise, they gel together really nicely." Sean says, "I saw the ESPN confirm that Charlotte vs. Ronda was the main event of night one." How did ESPN confirm it? But WWE didn't. Simon says, "It's the worst Mania ever. Sasha and Seth are not booked, but Logan Paul is." Simon, WrestleMania hasn't happened yet. WrestleMania hasn't happened. To be clear, until we actually get to WrestleMania, we don't know who's booked. They could be planning to put together matches that they already have planned in this next few weeks. They have several weeks. Simon, chill out. Andrew says, apparently 2K might have a surprise mystery superstar added to the game. No names yet, but that will be exciting. You sound very Tony Khan when you say that, Andrew. Sean says, it's possible Alexa will be in the Battle Royal. If that's the case, I'd rather her miss WrestleMania. Possible, yes, but I did go on to say about her potential appearance. There is plenty, absolutely plenty of different possibilities for Alexa Bliss, but when it comes to storyline, they're planning not to rush her back. She was not first choice for the Elimination Chamber, just no one else that they were planning was available at the time. Sonic says there's barely not either there's not enough women or there's barely enough women especially for Battle Royal, do you mean? Especially on the SmackDown Women's Division, don't NXT 2.0 talent will be in the Battle Royal. There are enough women for the Battle Royal, there absolutely are. When you consider, even just on SmackDown, you've got Naomi, you've got Sonya, you've got Shotzi, you've got Xia Li, then you go over to Raw, you've got Rhea Ripley, you've got Nikki Cross, you've got Alexa Bliss, you've got Liv Morgan, you've got Doudrop, there's 9 from the off, and then you go on from there. You've got Natalya, you've got Baszler, we're already at 11 or so. There is no problem with having a Battle Royal of only 12 or 13 people. Stick Beth Phoenix in there. Stick Maurice in there. You've got options. The WWE can do it. Also, yeah, you can have people who are planned to be called up. For example, Io Shirai has been doing dark matches recently. There are options. Simon, nobody has screwed over Sasha Banks. Nobody. Sasha Banks, as far as I can tell, he's very happy in the WWE. Very happy. She's a multiple-time champion, has appeared in a WrestleMania main event, is one of their most recognised stars. I'm very, very sick of hearing people say either, oh, they pushed too hard, they've been screwed. There is a middle ground. You need to chill out. Moxie says, hi Tom, sorry I'm late, any news yet? Moxie, that's a really wide question. You can't just come in and say, hey Tom, any news? Yeah, it's all over the place, mate. It's all over the place. What are you looking for particularly? Matthew says, I heard reports Pat McAfee is reported to be involved in a WrestleMania feud. What is it? You heard that from Ringside News and from Brad Shepard, not the most trusted sources. I haven't heard anything about it, but I'd love to see Pat McAfee versus Corey Graves. Ed says they have not screwed over Sasha, they have made her a star. Now there's plenty more on that, but I think that is perfect on its own. Sasha Banks does not become the Sasha Banks you know and love without the WWE. She has not been screwed over. Moxie says, I can watch Tom Colohue 7 days of the week. I don't think I can keep an hour-long show going for 7 days a week, but Moxie, maybe that day will eventually come. Matthew says, is Sonya versus Naomi planned for WrestleMania? Not at current, no. Sean Garner says, who does Corey Graves face at Mania if he does wrestle? Well, we don't know if he's going to wrestle. There is no storyline at the moment. I have no idea. Okay, Simon. I'm done. You're going on timeout. You're going on timeout. You're literally saying the WWE hates someone who was put in a main event of WrestleMania. You're wrong. You are wrong. It's that simple. Michael says, why isn't there a March premium live event? Essentially what they're hoping to do is just separate things out a little bit. Give us a little breathing space. And just give us that opportunity to build storylines and give themselves more time to do it. Also, they had a number of people they didn't know when they'd be returning, and they were planning a few surprises, so they needed time to put things together. When they had 2 pay-per-views this time last year, they ended up with only 1 women's match on either one, and it was the same match, a tag team match between Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler versus Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. Essentially, Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair were already feuding at that point, on their way to the main event of Night 1 of WrestleMania. They wanted Sasha Banks on every single pay-per-view. They wanted to feature her non-stop and really build this up because she was the one who was going to be putting over Bianca, and it was her longest championship reign to that point. That's why there's more breathing room this time, They just want more time to build. WWE Women's Division says, was hoping she returns tonight. Possible. I can't confirm likely at this time. Possible. Matthew Ham says, Ringside News says Edge's opponent is locked. Is that true? No. No, it's not. They know who they want. AJ and Edge are both pushing for this, but it's not locked until it's formally announced. That simple. I've already reported WWE want to do Edge versus AJ. That's what they want to do. A huge part of that, first, was getting AJ to sign a new contract. They didn't want to give him the big Mania match if he wasn't going to be there. Things like that have a big impact. So they had to wait for things like that before going ahead. A match for AJ and a match for Edge will be locked soon. But let's just be a little bit patient, okay? Montel, welcome to the show, mate. Says, hey Tom, do you think Ronda versus Charlotte might main event? Because their build-up has not been good so far. I think Bianca versus Becky will main event. What I was hearing a few months ago, going into WrestleMania, in fact going into the Royal Rumble, was that night 1 would be main evented by Becky Lynch, night 2 would be main evented by Roman Reigns. That was very much the plan. However, now that Ronda Rousey has become available, things have changed. Things have literally changed. I don't know what that main event is going to be, and the WWE are working hard not to confirm it. Not to confirm one way or another what the plan for the main event of night 1 is going to be. I think these two matches are sort of fighting it out, and we'll wait and see what actually happens, which is why both of them are saying main event all over the place. Tommy B says, Take has the best record at Mania. Yes, he does. The streak took on a life of its own. A real life of its own. If not for the streak, The Undertaker would not have had that record. But someone's got to have the best record and someone's got to have the worst. Same as anything. Wrestling will always feature a loser. The best talents can lose and recover quickly. Like Sasha Banks. She recovered pretty damn quickly from that loss at WrestleMania. David Leary says, how come NXT UK hasn't changed like NXT? Several reasons, David. Firstly, nobody watches it. Secondly, the WWE don't really watch it themselves and don't really care what happens there because it's very low budget and Shawn Michaels has just handled it quietly. And the third reason is that NXT UK is already in the NXT 2.0 mold. It is only developing talent. It develops talent, it moves them on. That's all it does. Tommy says, is Taker going to be the only one in the Hall of Fame this year? No. And I think he should be. He was huge for WWE and did a lot for Vince and WWE and wrestling. When it comes to the WWE Hall of Fame, they can't just have one person go in because there are too many people that they need to bring in. There are just too many people that they need to feature. There are so many people in years to come that need to go into that Hall of Fame. And if they just go for one this year, they're going to miss out on a whole lot of people. And that means they've got a backlog even greater. They will try and get them in this year. Moxie says, Tom, you're one subscriber away from 980. I am indeed. Hopefully we continue to grow. At the moment I'm gaining 3 or 4 per day, which sets us on a lovely trajectory of monetized before, for example, the 10th of March. Hashtag monetized by Mania, guys. And if you are watching on YouTube, please do remember to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Jermaine Presley says, now that Ronda is back, any chance for Evolution 2.0? Yes, there is a strong chance of an Evolution 2.0. A stronger, now that Ronda Rousey is there. However, the reason for Evolution was because women could not wrestle in Saudi Arabia. Women can now wrestle for Saudi Arabia. The WWE don't see a need for Evolution anymore. Moxie says, Tom, Twitter is down. Is it? That sucks. I can see Alexa versus Liv at WrestleMania. Me too. Absolutely me too. Twitter is down. Let's have a look. It's working for me. Yep, working fine for me. In fact, I'll take this opportunity to retweet my announcement tweet saying that the show has gone live. Wiggly says, I didn't know Io Shirai was doing dark matches. She is. She's been wrestling in front of Vince a little bit. That's the whole point of the dark matches, just giving the people on the main roster a chance to look at who they could potentially work with, giving creative a chance to get to know them, and go from there. Andrew Quinn says, there is a rumour going around, Tom, and you did confirm by the sounds of it, WWE will unify the titles whoever wins out of Roman or Brock. I did not confirm that. In fact, I have said the opposite, that the titles are planned to be kept separate. This is the last I heard, which is about a week old now, but they were planning to keep the championships separate so that you could compete for one on Raw, compete for one on Smackdown, and thus Roman would be defending them individually but appearing on both shows. Brock Lesnar would be vanishing after WrestleMania. Wiggly says, so she'll be main roster soon. My heart would skip a beat if she was. Maybe. The thing with the dark matches is that if you don't impress the main roster scouting group, you get fired. So fingers crossed. Sean says, Pat McAfee versus Corey Graves to see who the best commentator is. I don't think it'll be about best commentator. I think Corey will just go full heel. And honestly, I'd be excited for that. Sonic says, I'd rather have Asuka to miss WrestleMania 38 this year. And I'm a fan of Asuka, but have her spend the next couple of months until she's come back after Mania. You and several other people have said both that and the opposite, so I'm not entirely sure if you actually agree with what you're saying there. We will likely see Asuka in the Battle Royal that opens WrestleMania. Probably night 2, I feel. Ethan Hill says, firstly, welcome Ethan, it's been a little while mate, hope you're good. Said, do you think Cody Rhodes will sign with WWE? I think he will, yes. However, last report I made, last information I had, he hasn't signed as of yet. And that's what I've got. That's the information that I have at the current point in time. Larry Bongo, welcome mate, says, why isn't Roman Reigns getting a push? He's been ignored too long. They hate him. He needs to leave WWE and go to Impact where he can be seen. And you know what, Larry? You are spot on. When you look at the Roman Reigns career, WWE just constantly holding him back. Do you know how many WrestleMania main events he's lost? At least 2. 2 whole matches in the WrestleMania main event that he has lost. It's unfair. It's unfair. Moneymaker. So it's absolutely ridiculous that celebrities have matches planned and announced before some of their biggest stars. No, it's not. It's not at all. Here's the thing. Sasha Banks wrestles for the WWE, and as such it can safely be assumed that she will wrestle at WrestleMania. Logan Paul, for instance, does not wrestle for the WWE, and as such, you can't assume that he's going to wrestle at WrestleMania. If you hype up a match for Sasha Banks at WrestleMania, you will reach wrestling fans who want to see Sasha Banks wrestle at WrestleMania. If you hype up the possibility of a celebrity wrestling at WrestleMania, you will attract non-wrestling fans. I've lost count of the amount of times I've said this, but WWE's target audience is non-wrestling fans. WWE's target audience is casuals. WWE would prefer to push a celebrity than a wrestler, because wrestlers only appeal to people who already watch WWE. Celebrities appeal to people who don't watch WWE. Now the hope is that certain stars, such as Sasha Banks, will go beyond that, will become celebrities in their own right, and will start to attract non-wrestling fans. This has happened with Sasha Banks. And thus, they start to look at sort of booking her both ways, much like last year, when they booked her way ahead of time for an obvious match with Bianca Belair. However, they can't do that every single day. They can't. This time last year, Sasha Banks was featured draw segments week in, week out. If you honestly think the WWE hate her, clearly you don't watch WWE. Okay? It's that simple. Also, key fact, she's happy. Stop trying to make her miserable by changing the things that make her happy. This should not be difficult to understand. I'm going a bit off on one. I do apologise for that. But this has been happening on every single show. It stops here. It stops here. I get if your opinion is that she's not getting enough. You know? I get that if that's your opinion. However, coming in and saying, no, WWE hates her, it's the worst thing that's ever happened, it's wrong. You're stating a fact. The fact is the opposite. Your opinion is fine. Share your opinion. Just don't state wrong facts in my chat. It's that simple. I want the most well-informed chat we can possibly have in wrestling. I don't want people coming in here sharing wrong information. It is wrong to say that the WWE hates Sasha Banks. The WWE wants to make money. Sasha Banks makes some money. It's that simple. Darnell says, do you believe WrestleMania will be good? Yeah, WrestleMania is always good, but it's not as good as, say, the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble for me is usually a better show. WrestleMania, of course, is not the wrestling fans show. It's a casual show. It's the most casual show every single year. It's a commercial for wrestling rather than a wrestling show, as it were, which is why the big match would have been Sasha versus Bianca at SummerSlam, if she'd been available for it, rather than the WrestleMania match. Andy22488 says, Asuka is returning. Yes. Sean says, Smackdown preview says Brock and Roman to sign contract for their champion versus champion, winner-take-all champion unification match. Possible this was a mistake. Well, if they're saying unification, they're saying unification. As I say, last news I had was a week ago. You guys got to realise, I don't read everything. I don't have enough time. I was giving my girlfriend a unicorn onesie. That's what I did before the show, and you know what? I'm very happy with my choice. Very happy. So yes, it may be championship unification. I haven't read the preview. Wolfgamer says, because WWE forgot that NXT UK exists like they did with 205 Live and Adam Cole's contract, which is basically it, yeah. WWE and Thomas fan says, hopefully John Cena shows up at WrestleMania along with Cody Rhodes. I don't believe he will. I don't believe there are any plans at the moment to see John Cena. Andrew Quinn says, Brothers of Destruction might get inducted next year like DX and NWO did. Possible. I certainly think there is scope for The Undertaker to win several, well, not win, but to be awarded several rings. Rob says, the whole thing with Vince and WWE hate Sasha Banks is ridiculous now. As a fan, I like to see her win, but no matter how much she loses, she never loses her top spot in the company and star presentation. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Moxie says, hashtag monetized by Mania. Oh yeah. Michael says, I think an Alexa and Liv feud would be great. I agree. I think Alexa and Liv would work really well together. Their styles would mesh very well. They could use a lot of the gymnastics background that both of them have. I'd be very excited by that match. Ethan Hill says, do you think Sasha will get a match at Mania? Yes, I've reported several times. Sasha Banks will wrestle at WrestleMania. Moneymaker says, I hope the WrestleMania crowd craps all over Charlotte versus Ronda because that's exactly what they deserve. Why? Why do they deserve crap from the crowd for wrestling the match they've been told to wrestle? Why? If that's your logic, then every single match at WrestleMania should be crapped over. They don't get to choose their matches. It's that simple. Wiggly says, what's with the hate for Charlotte and Ronda? A lot of people just really hate the fact that the match is happening. Yep, Sasha Banks was bumped for it. WWE made that choice. Ronda didn't. Charlotte didn't. Sasha didn't. Chill the fuck out. Hector, welcome mate, says hello. Well, says happy Friday. Tom, I know you're not the biggest into AEW. True. But honest analysis, what do you think this big Tony Khan announcement is planned for Wednesday's Dynamite? Here's the thing. I don't think he knows. AEW, just as habit, whenever they drop on the ratings a little bit, suddenly there's a big announcement. But it's been proven time after time. Usually Tony Khan says he's got a big announcement and then goes and plans one. For example, the appearance of Jay White. Not there when he first mentioned the Forbidden Door. Keith Lee, no Forbidden Door there. Jay White was the Forbidden Door person that he mentioned, but he didn't have Jay White when he said so. So at the moment, I think he pushed it back a week because he's not sure yet. We'll wait and see what actually happens. But certainly there's a possibility of a number of names. I think it might be Jeff Hardy. Wiggly says Roman Reigns is the guy from Game of Thrones. Looks a lot like him, let's be fair. Jason Momoa, Roman Reigns side by side, that's the same. That's rude. Wiggly says, celebrities at WrestleMania, what is this edgy new take? I know, man. Never been done before, apart from all of them. Andrew Quinn says, I feel like one of Taker's opponents from past Manias should induct him. I agree. I feel the most likely person to induct The Undertaker will be Kane. But I would not be too surprised if Vince McMahon himself steps into this one. Tommy says, that's the difference between WWE and AEW. WWE is about getting eyes on their product. AEW only cares about a small amount of fans. And that is spot on. AEW focuses on the wrestling crowd, and that's why they struggle for retention rate when they do get new viewers. WWE focuses on the casual crowd, and that's why they struggle a little bit in the retention rate for wrestling fans. There's so many recaps and stuff, it infuriates us because we were there, we saw, but we're not the target audience. Sonic says, that's what worries me. Asuka is too big of a name to be in the Battle Royal. She isn't. Even though she's a multiple-time women's champion. She's not too big of a name to be in a Battle Royal. She isn't. There is no cap on the Battle Royal. Would Ria Ripley be classed as too big? She certainly wouldn't. Becky Lynch has been in the Battle Royal previously. The Battle Royal is to ensure that people get a WrestleMania payday. Being in the Battle Royal instead of off WrestleMania means you get a hell of a lot more money. A hell of a lot more money. Can we stop demonizing the Battle Royal? You know? It's a payday. It's better than not being on the card, in my opinion. Simon is back saying, very sorry, but us Sasha fans are just mad at the company right now. If she beats Lita, I'll be the happiest Sasha fan in the world. Sasha versus Lita is my dream match. There's a possibility that match is going to happen. I get that you're frustrated. I get that. But I just need you to take a breath. Okay? It's alright. It's okay. Give it time. There is a plan for Sasha. They just don't entirely know what that plan is yet. But she's gonna wrestle. If she doesn't wrestle, it's because of unavailability from herself, not the WWE. They're gonna give her something. They just need to assess what that something is gonna be. Alyssa, welcome, mate. Says, not interested in both main events. Most overwhelming main event, Roman Reigns, stale champion. I think the championship reign is starting to wear and tear a little bit, but I wouldn't call him stale at this point. I still think Roman Reigns is the best thing about WWE. Cool. Okay, Jay Quick also saying they are now wording the contract signing as a unification match. Well, there we go then. It looks like they have changed their minds again. Firstly, they said champion versus champion. Then they said winner take all. Now they're saying unification match. I gotta be honest. They are very much making this up as they go along. Andy says Cody is WWE bound. Nothing confirmed as of yet. David Leary says, is Triple H involved in talent relations or NXT in any way? Yes, but not at the moment. Jay Quick says, who do you think will win the Women's Battle Royal at Mania? It depends. I think there's a possibility of Shayna, I think there's a possibility of Sonya, and I definitely think there's a possibility of Rhea Ripley. Twitch Vibe is also jumping on the Sasha Banks train and saying, WWE fucking hates Sasha Banks. They don't. You're wrong. Justin says if Alexa isn't on Raw this week in her hometown, then I believe she's off until Raw after Mania, which is certainly a possibility. As I say, Alexa Bliss was not supposed to be in the Elimination Chamber, but the people that they wanted were not available, not available, not available. So they did the best they could and gave us someone. This is why Alexa Bliss was quite similar to a current character. There are still a few more therapy vignettes. They're just basically trying to decide what to do next now that they've made that change. Wiggly says, WrestleManias for me are special. They're up there with Super Bowls, FA Cup finals, Champions League finals, World Cups and Olympics. Okay, not as big as those, but you get my drift. I do. WrestleMania is WrestleMania. It is huge. The pageantry is ridiculous, even just on its own. It is a colossal force of nature, WrestleMania. Now, admittedly, as a wrestling fan, Royal Rumble better for me. But if you're a casual, WrestleMania is WrestleMania. There are people out there who only watch WrestleMania. Sonic says, a lot of Sasha Banks are annoying every week. Look at Asuka, she's happy. I don't see any negativity from her. Very positive person who stands up for her friends. Sasha Banks is happy. Everything Sasha Banks says on social media, everything I'm hearing from backstage, Sasha Banks is fine. Stop trying to force her out of the company for no reason. Willie says, I went to WrestleMania 31, got that off my bucket list. That is very cool, mate. Very cool. James Stewart says, your tip to get into the title picture within the next 2 years, like Lashley, Kofi, Big E, etc. To break into it? Honestly, I'm feeling Corbin. I feel like Corbin's a champion waiting to happen. And I feel like the moment is going to come. Wiggly said, technically Undertaker could only get 2 rings. One as a solo, the other as part of the Brothers of Destruction. Yeah, at the moment, but then they also may induct the American Badass. Moneymaker says, I've been to WrestleMania before and there are more hardcore fans in attendance than there are casual fans. Yeah, the audience in attendance is not the target audience though. There are far more people watching on TV, and they're the casuals. Jay Quick says, do you think they give Madcap a win over Drew tonight? Not necessarily, but I wouldn't be angry at it, you know? I wouldn't be disappointed at that happening, because ultimately the plan is Drew versus Corbin. Now, Drew is very well protected, which is why I don't think he's going to be taking the loss here. However, stranger things have happened, and WWE do like their 50-50. Ed Fries is bringing me the direct quote directly from WWE.com. The Beast comes to the Blue Brand to make his winner-take-all championship unification match against Head of the Table official for WrestleMania. Thank you everyone for bringing me that news as it breaks. It's not something I had read beforehand, so thank you for the update. If you're currently watching on YouTube, please do consider hitting that thumbs up and subscribing if you haven't done so already. We are very close at this point to reaching monetization, which happens at 1,000 subscribers. 1,000 subscribers will take us to monetization, and we are very close to that target. We are currently at 979, hoping beyond hope that we can get there before WrestleMania. If you know anyone who has not subscribed, let them know. If you yourself have not subscribed, or you have other accounts that aren't subscribed, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Make it happen. Have some fun. Have a great time. Help me get monetized by Mania, and our Mania coverage will be non-stop. Sean says Alexa versus Liv would be fun for the wrestling aspect. Alexa versus Rhea would be fun for the fan reactions. As much as I would love a triple threat as well, I do feel there are definitely fun options there. I do feel it should be one or the other. I just don't think any of those three should be missing from the... I don't think any of those three should miss out on the payday, so definitely at least one of them should be in the Battle Royal if they're not able to get the match. Andrew Quinn says, also, are you going to see the new Batman movie, Tom? Probably yes. I find it very, very likely I'll be going at some point. It genuinely looks interesting. I like what they're doing with the Riddler. Seems like it'll be interesting. Simon is asking, what is a better promo on AEW Dynamite, MJF or Eddie Kingston? I preferred MJF personally. Alyssa is saying, Seth Rollins deserves to main event WrestleMania. I'm sure the day will come around, but the day hasn't come yet. And Seth Rollins seems to be one who kind of gets lost in the shuffle at times. Immensely talented, does deserve more championships. It's just a case of making it happen now. Ethan says, how do you feel about Cesaro leaving the WWE? A little bit gutted, because it means I won't be seeing him week in, week out, but the WWE wasn't planning to use him. They really weren't. He wasn't happy, he wasn't getting the push, and the amount of news that's come out over the last day is absolutely ridiculous, especially when you consider that almost all of it came out on my video yesterday first. I have high faith that he will go somewhere and be respected, pushed, utilised in a very good way, and I look forward to that day. Moxie says, Tom man, I have so much respect for you, no offence, but you were almost homeless last year. Very close, that is true. Now you're living your best life. I was getting bullied in school today, came home, watched your YouTube and feel better. I'm glad I was able to make you feel better in some way there, Moxie. I'm very glad to hear it. I was very, very close to a very, very bad situation. It's due to the generosity of people here and a little bit of perseverance on my part that did not happen. Things got rough. Things absolutely did get rough. But it is about gritting your teeth, getting your head down, and just fighting forwards at times. Just hang in there, mate. I'd love to say it gets better, but you get better. That's the big difference. We all get better with time. Wiggly says, I personally would like Mick Foley to induct Undertaker. Would give a great speech and of course both have history. When Taker did his UK tour, Mick Foley was the opening speaker. There's a couple of really good options there. A couple of really good options for it. Tommy says Andre has been in Battle Royals, so Asuka can be in one as well. That's a very fair comment. A Battle Royal is not necessarily a bad thing. Batista and CM Punk are in Battle Royals way back when, after all. Simon says it's Alexa's hen / bachelorette party this weekend in Las Vegas. Congrats to her and Ryan Cabrera. Is Ryan Cabrera the Bowling for Soup singer? Don't think he is. Sean says, I know you don't watch NXT. Sometimes, but not enough. But do you see Io and Kaylee Ray versus Cora and Raquel as the finals of the Women's Dusty Cup? I think they are the most pushed people, and when you are the most pushed people, there is a high chance that you'll be the people pushed to the main event and the finals there. Would make a lot of sense to me. Wiggly says, if Asuka is too big to be in the Battle Royal, then Beth Phoenix shouldn't be there. Much as I love Asuka, WWE never viewed her amongst their all-time legends. They absolutely did not. Michael says, 2 separate brands with 1 title? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't, does it? As I say, it looks like the WWE have changed their minds again. Sonic says, do you think unifying the titles will have negative effects for the roster? Yes. Absolutely I do, yes. It will have a negative effect on the roster. I don't believe that's even I don't believe that's even a debatable point. Matthew Ham says, do you think Trish Stratus is at WrestleMania? She's at WrestleCon in Dallas that weekend. Could be. The WWE want her there. It's just about coming to a deal. Hector says, could this unification be a good way to get the big gold belt back on TV? Sure, hope so, because I feel like Fox or USA would be pretty upset if they had no world champion. No. The big gold belt will not be returning in any way, shape or form. There is no intention to bring back the big gold belt. The WWE have moved on from it and do not intend to revisit a belt that they believe is outdated and defunct. Basically. Bro says, hey Tom. Hey bro. Sorry I'm late, but WWE on their website said Brock vs Roman are signing a contract for their title unification match. Thought it was winner take all, now it's both. Yes, that is correct. It was winner take all, now it's both. Simon says, Matthew, she just finished filming her movie today, Trish did. Well, if that is the case, we already know she's going to be in Dallas, as has been mentioned by Matthew there. So Matthew already said Trish would be there. Willie says, to be honest, anyone who passes their cash to go to WrestleMania is a fan in some sense. Indeed, they are. Bailey says, I think some of those who complain most about Sasha Banks not being in matches are those worried that Sasha's days as a full-time performer are narrowing, as Hollywood calls. Yeah, they are. Those days are narrowing. And she wants that. If you call yourself a Sasha Banks fan, don't be annoyed at her for doing things that make her happy. Don't be that fan who stands in the airport at 3 a.m. shouting, Sasha, 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 then going on your phone and saying, what a bitch. She didn't say anything. She didn't sign anything. What a bitch. Don't be that fan. There is a line of fandom and obsession. So all take a breath. Sean says, if they do unify the titles, that means less opportunities. Yep. 100%. 100%. Andrew Quinn says, my dream one day is to go to WrestleMania. Been to 2 WWE events in Liverpool in the Echo Arena back in 17 and 18 Raw and Smackdown live events. But Mania is a dream for me. And me too, mate. One day, one of these days, I'll be able to go to WrestleMania, catch up with a whole load of you guys, and just have a great time. Moxie again says, monetized by Mania. James Stewart says McIntyre versus Corbin on SmackDown tonight. I thought he was McIntyre versus Madcap Moss. Let's check. Let's have a look at the WWE preview everyone's talking about. McIntyre versus Corbin. Sean said I'll still go see Batman, but I'm not a fan of who is playing Batman. I don't think he'll be a good Batman. I will watch it and then make my decision. You know, I'll take my time and work out what I think is the case. Prior to their winner-take-all, yeah. That is a massive title they've got there. They have removed, yeah, they've removed reference to Madcap Moss versus Drew McIntyre. Interesting. Maybe Madcap Moss is not as fit and raring to go as they thought. I hope he's okay. Wiggly says, I think the problem with a lot of fans is they never accepted that the Attitude Era ended more than 20 years ago. The Rock and Austin's glory days are way behind them. Wrestling, just like anything in life, adapted and evolved with the times. For me personally, WWE wrestling is better now than it was back when I was a kid. You can access it on many different forms of media on demand. They do more touring, more accessible now than it was before, not like some cult following. WrestleManias get coverage in mainstream media, as does wrestling in general. There is a whole lot of things about which I feel that wrestling is better now than the Attitude Era. Also, I feel a lot of people who are big fans of the Attitude Era should go back and watch it, because I don't think they will be at that point. Wheeler says, if I can go off script, Tom, you know I've had a shit time personally, still am, but this channel helps. I hope you remember that. Well, thank you, mate. Anything I can do to help and support people is something it is definitely worth doing. Simon says, is a brand split finishing then? Now less men will get less opportunities, which sucks for fans and wrestlers, like less TV time for them. The brand split not ending, because ultimately we've still got 2 women's champions. We might only have 1 world champion, whatever that may be, but we've still got 2 women's champions. So I do not know what is going on here. I don't think the WWE knows what's going on here. Maybe, we get Ronda versus Charlotte versus Bellaire versus Becky. Who knows? I don't think they know. I think they're making it up as they go along. James Stewart wants to bring back Big Gold or not. Fair enough, James. I realise that you said that literally as I went into it on the Big Gold belt. Jay Quick says, with whoever wins the unification, is that going to wear Roman or Brock out? No idea. The plan was for Roman to appear on both shows anyway, and then just having on less live shows, which kind of makes sense. Ed, as regards NXT, says, Corey and Raquel, Io and Kaylee Ray, Indy and Persia will be the top choices, but don't count out Casey and KC, which is Casey Catanzaro and Caden Carter. Have I got this right? Simon says, your opinion, Tom, on Murphy's AW debut didn't hit home with me. Haven't seen much of it. Glad they've got him. Hopefully he's going to be used more than he was in WWE, but I'm going to be completely honest here. I'm not sure that's the case. I think there is a huge logjam in the AW mid-card. I think they use people more on a rotating basis, but I think there is a logjam in that mid-card. And I think Buddy Matthews has been added to that rather than put it above that. James Stewart says, new title design then, or just drop one design? I'm not sure. Once again, I don't think the WWE know. My opinion would be that they will likely just have the WWE Championship again. But it looks like they're going to have one champion across both shows, but then what's the point? I don't understand. Matthew Ham says, if they are doing McIntyre versus Corbin tonight, do they still fight at WrestleMania? They've literally just made the change. I think they probably will. That was... what was it? What section was that in? That was in the planned section, not the locked section. The main reason for the, of course, planned rather than locked is because they weren't sure that Madcap Moss would be fit, so they needed to make the switch. In a street fight. I'm confident the plan is still McIntyre versus Corbin, but we'll see how they get around to it. Montel says Twitter is blowing up about unifying the champions. Yeah, that... They've really just made a massive change there. Wheeler says, you help by just being there. I watch this religiously like the football on Corey. I've noticed, mate. You're here all the time and I appreciate that. And Wheeler also loves the big gold belt, but we've moved on now, which I think is absolutely true. Simon says, Montel, no one will ever get a world title again like Priest, someone new. Now, you're doing it again, Simon. You're doing it again. Now, firstly, the lack of 2 champions will mean less opportunities. Saying the men are screwed, not true. Let's breathe. Let's breathe. Now, admittedly, the only people who really get pushed will be people engaged with Roman Reigns or people with a side championship, like the US title or the Intercontinental Championship. It'll be less opportunity. That doesn't mean men will never get another opportunity. Take a breath. Wiggly, I did see what you saw about Reigns. I read it. I read it as something presented to people that they could read and left it there. Sean says, they always say AW the grass is greener, but most like Ruby and Sean Spears are being used the same way they were in WWE, so I don't see how the grass is greener. Maybe they're happier. Maybe they're just happier. That's how I would look at it personally. Maybe they are just happier. Kevin Carter is coming in here lying about losing his virginity, but bless him, he is still trying. Moxie says 30 views over on YouTube. Yeah, we're doing alright. We're doing alright. Mike Rogers said, Sasha recently mentioned a forbidden door. Does that mean she'll challenge Mickey? I don't know. There is no interest from the WWE at the moment to have Mickey James return. It was a one and done. They liked the crowd reaction, but I think it's more that Sasha is trying to call out certain people, such as Meiko Satomura. I don't think she's necessarily going full forbidden door. And James says, Unifying smells of Nick Khan thinning out the card further. To be fair, here's the thing. It does mean less opportunities, but there are less people now to take them. So, you never can tell. Moxie says, will there be a Smackdown watch party? Yes, there will. That will be in 2 hours, 1 a.m. my time. The show is already live for that, so while I have you, let's pop on over to the YouTube. Go onto my dashboard. And I'll put a link in to both sides so that you guys can follow. Darnell says, why are WWE unifying the belts? I have no idea, mate. The change has just been made. I've not had a chance to ask questions yet because I've been streaming. Once I've come off, I'll ask questions. There may be some news on the watch party, but I can't guarantee it. Unfortunately, I cannot guarantee it at this time. So, for the watch party, here is a link that you can go and click 1, like, and 2 for a reminder on. I hope to see as many of you there as possible. Wiggly says, as I said about AEW is good, but it needs time to develop as a brand. Tony Khan is beginning to make the mistakes WCW made, which is focusing on ratings and not developing as a brand. AEW still doesn't have deals to broadcast live on TV stations outside North America, haven't scheduled international tours, and even altering merchandise, and that site isn't straightforward. They have a way to go, but they're doing better than TNA, better than WCW 1999 to 2001. Everyone is doing better than WCW 1999 to 2001. I agree with most of that. Edward Brooks says, sounds like the only way Bayley makes a WrestleMania card is teaming with Sasha if that match can go. Yes, because Bayley is not cleared at the moment, and if she's going to wrestle, they need to protect her. That's what the tag team match would be about, and I think Sasha would be okay protecting her best friend. Bro says, could you imagine the outrage if Becky retains at WrestleMania? Yeah, I'm sure plenty of people would be fine with it. People like Becky Lynch. There wouldn't be that much outrage. Wiggly says, are you not doing a watch party on Twitch? Yes, I'm doing a watch party on both YouTube and Twitch. You'll be able to check it out, but I can't schedule shows on Twitch ahead of time, whereas I can on YouTube and give people the link for it. And Sean says, unifying the titles could lead to a brand split, which is stupid. The brand is already split. Could lead to a brand reinstatement, but that would mean a lot more people getting fired. We don't want this unification match, I promise you. Andrew Quinn says, if there's a WrestleMania dream match that could possibly happen, whether this year or next, man would have been Sting versus Taker, or Brothers of Destruction versus NWO. I want to see none of them because none of them should be wrestling at this point. They're all old as shit and battered as hell. Basically. That is everything that we have for you today. Answered every question. We've had a peak of 33 viewers here on YouTube, and we peaked at 47 viewers total across both shows, both on Twitch and on YouTube. Please do consider hitting follow if you have not already done so on Twitch, and subscribe if you haven't already on YouTube. We are 21 subscribers away. In the meantime, I'll see you for the watch party in 2 hours for Smackdown. I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic. I'll see you all very soon.